Yogi Berra says, if you don't know where you are going, you will end up somewhere else. This is a scenario that most of us farmers we have gotten ourselves into in the year 2021, and we feel at Dairy Networks you have an opportune moment to change that one and have a roadmap in your dairy farm. For this purpose, we'll have YouTube channels for you every date 1, date 10, and date 20, covering the farmer story, retired farmers, existing farmers, startup farmers, and also dairy professionals. Our main focus is for you to grow your farm to the next level, to inspire you, and also to make the dairy journey amazing. To start with, our year we have Willie Keya, who is an experienced dairy farmer. For that case, he's a retired farmer who does also dairy consultancy, an amazing person. He has helped so many farms. If Willie hasn't come to your farm, I'm sure you must be doing something wrong. And if you have met Willie, you know how logical he can be. He'll challenge your way of thinking. Karibu sana bwana Willie.
Thank you very much.
Asante.
Asante sana.
Naona hii mwaka umetukimbiza mbio sana.
Ukweli lazima isemwe. Hiyo ndio mahali wakulima wanapotea. Just too much sugar coating and this. So you get straight to the point.
You go straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
Introduce yourself and you tell us how the dairy journey was and life after retirement.
Okay, hi. My name is Willie Keya. I'm a retired dairy farmer. I've started dairy farming in 2011 in Dumboine, a place called Dumboine, which is in Upper Kabete near Udhiru. What got me into dairy farming? I think that's the question a lot of people would want to ask. So prior to that, I got into greenhouse farming. So I had some big greenhouses, and the land which I was using had been farmed before. So we were having issues with organic matter in the soil and things like that. So buying manure from Narok became very expensive. So I got this brainwave, hey, how come, why not produce my own manure here on the farm from my greenhouse? So I found myself putting a few cows, thinking a quarter-acre greenhouse can be served by 3 cows. So initially I put 3 cows. They started producing cow dung, and I realized, that cow dung is not even enough for 1 bed out of 16 in that greenhouse. But by then, the interest in keeping cows had started to grow in me. So the cows are already there, so it's an asset now. You better take care of your asset and grow it and things like those. So I ended up finding myself starting to pay attention to the cows. Now they stopped being manure factories and they started being producing 7 liters of milk. Why? And I read in the newspaper that there's someone producing 30 and 34 and 40. So I started paying attention to that, and through curiosity, which I have a lot of, just naturally, very, very curious, I tried to understand the principles around it. Doesn't mean that I've not made mistakes. I've made a lot of mistakes during, especially the first 2 years of dairy farming. I made a lot of mistakes. Then there was no forums like this. There was no networks amongst farmers. We'd go for dairy training or farm visits. Like I remember we went to Mzee Charles in Machakos, down near Machakos. I've been to a couple of other farms. But it was very difficult to do a small-scale dairy farm based on learnings from these big farms. You go to Mzee Charles and he's got 70 cows or something like that. How do you scale that to your 3 or 4 cows which you have on your farm? And these guys are talking hay in truckloads. You're thinking 1 truckload will take you a few months. The dynamics are totally different. So from there, I started to learn from farmers who are closer to my scale and who trying to do those things which I could relate to. So started looking through Githunguri and a few other places. But the one thing which I noticed was, yes, there's information, lisha ng'ombe namna hii, but the scientific basis of why that thing is being done was very difficult to get. So that's what I started to focus on. Then along the way, we tried, all the shortcuts normal dairy farmers do. Tajikorogea dairy mill. I'd even made some rotary drum, mix the things inside there, and then like the charity sweepstake drums, and rotate that, and then you still pour it out, and then you see it's not fully mixed anyway. And those weka chini, koroga na vijiko, we did all sorts of things. Then through those mistakes, but the first 2 years, iko ile minajua ikitu ninaweza fanya. So you make so many mistakes, and then you realize these mistakes are very expensive because you're so passionate and you really want it to work. So any other source of income that you have, you just keep pumping it there. At some point you realize, hey, this feels like a bottomless pit. So you stop. Then you review. Then you start to ask yourself questions. And these questions need answers. So I went into a very intense research phase to understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing, why are the cows behaving like that? Why am I not going past 13 liters, 14 liters? So the cow calves the first 3 weeks, I'm hitting 14. Then I'm going back to 11, 10, 9. Total loss. What am I not getting right? So when I started understanding some of those mistakes I was making, then I started seeing 17, 18, 22.
But Bonawini, I've always heard farmers saying after witchcraft is associated with the milk drop. Didn't you feel like someone has done some kind of...
No. I think when you have more modern thinking, fine, we have an open gate policy here, but it was very difficult to think that direction when you can actually see there's a trend. This cow calved today, it went and picked, it got to 14 liters. Then 4 weeks later, it's at 9 liters. What am I getting wrong? So you ask yourself those questions, you're bound to get answers. If you're very passionate about getting the answer, you will get the answers. So I started to get the answers, some of them through some of my mentors, people who I met along the way, and they offered to guide me, especially away from the mistakes. A lot of them couldn't explain scientifically, but they'd give you a very coherent answer. So something that makes sense, and it forms for you a good foundation. Then also through Facebook. So there was a big group called Farming Kenya. This should have been, I think, 2011, 12, and 2013, or up till 2014. Very, very vibrant group. So all farmers were on Farming Kenya. So you'd find dairy farmers, greenhouse. Since I was already a greenhouse farmer previously, I was already there. So I started reaching out to a few dairy farmers. So I made friends with guys who gave me quite interesting insights. Someone like Stephen Ananda, who had understood genetics very, very early on. And I think also through dog breeding. So it was very easy for him to understand genetics. So I couldn't read a catalog at some point. And I called him, and he took me through, this part says this and this part says this. So you need to understand this, and how you'll translate that now into your bull choice and those kinds of things. So over time, met and made friends, someone like Patrick Ruto, who supplies fodder and those things. I mean, we've grown basically in the industry. Everyone went their own way in the industry itself. But it's through those networks that you learn, because another farmer goes somewhere else and sees something, then shares with you. But then I saw this and this. Let's try and figure out what's this guy in Githunguri doing, for example. So I went through it all. I mean, I'll give you a good example, hydroponics fodder. So
no, I'm so much interested. You're talking about 2011, and you took 2 years to learn. Were you still doing the greenhouses?
Yes, I was.
And you still had your 3 cows?
Yeah. Let's say there were 4 by then. So my first heifer was already coming on very late, maybe about 28 months. 28 months towards calving, the first calving. So I think I did 31 months on my first heifer.
Wow, you did very well.
I think so. But then again, later on, when
you learned it was a mistake.
Yeah, when you come to learn that was a really old cow that's masked as young. Yeah. So this kind of benchmarks, when you read, when you go out and you're researching, you come across those anecdotes.
Now,
Calving at first calving at 24 months. You're wondering, I did 31. What did I do wrong? And then you start seeing lifetime production, affection, and this, when you start understanding those things. So you go back now and start analyzing how you raised that calf and where you made the mistakes and the missteps and those things. So by understanding those things, it allowed me to make less mistakes. Maybe not very wise, but less mistakes, I think, is still a lot of progress. Because the mistakes themselves, as I said earlier, they were very costly. You're just pumping money and it's just going, and at some point gets frustrating.
So 2013 is the time now you started doing the hydroponics?
Yes. It should be either late 2012 or early 2013.
Yes.
So, and then it was a really big thing. And since you don't really understand the basics of, say, feeding for ruminants, this looked like heaven.
A quick fix.
Yes. Build a small structure, put trays inside there, weka mbegu, mwagilia maji siku 7, you have fodder. This is in comparison to maize or Napier. You wait 2 months, 3 months, 7 days. I have something to feed the cows. This was like manna from heaven. We felt like Israelites. On the way to Canaan. You just wake up in the morning and voila, the cows are fed. So we did that hydroponics for maybe about a month and a half, going to 2 months. Then I realized their production was not getting affected positively towards my expectations. There was just a slight bump in production, and so I asked myself, what's going on? Am I not understanding something here? So I think then I did the most intelligent thing I have ever done. Here close by, there's the University of Nairobi, Kabete campus. So the College of Agriculture and Veterinary Services. So I'd used their vet team to help treat my cows before. So I felt comfortable approaching them. And I was like, so there's this thing I'm feeding and I really don't know what's going on, because the expectations I have for results from it, I'm not seeing. So I took a sample of the hydroponics fodder for analysis. So about a week later, I'm called, your results are out. So I go for the results. So I'm given this sheet and it has all these numbers. But the guy who was giving me that asked me, what is this thing? So I told him it's hydroponics fodder. It's a new type of fodder. So I explained to him, you take your barley seeds and you sprout them and sprinkle water twice or thrice a day and you have fodder. Then he said, it's very strange because it has too much water. Hii kitu ni maji tu. So I asked him, what do you mean ni maji tu? So he shows me in the report, dry matter value of 16%. So I'm looking at him wondering, okay, so what does that mean? So he tells me, okay, so dry matter being 16%, it means this thing is 84% water. So I stop and think and ask, 84% maji tu? Yes, that's what the results are saying. So he just mentioned and said, these dry matter values are very important for people to understand. Then you'll know what you are doing when you need to make feeding decisions. So here I have my form, lab results that I don't understand. So I took them with me. I went and I sat and I started to Google. And I just learned and thought, I had so many, I'd have 4 aha moments in literally 4 hours of research. You know, like, oh, no wonder. You mean? So now I started to see my mistakes from a different light. The scientific explanations. I'd read journals from like the universities, Penn State University. And they'd really explain, you know, this is what we were trying to research, and this is the methodology, and this is the results we got. Therefore. So when you look at the therefore is when you start now drawing parallels with some of the things you are seeing on your own farm, some of the mistakes, why there was low production and this and that, why hydroponics wasn't working. Because what would happen is the amount of fodder you needed to feed the cow to achieve the dry matter values that the cow needed were ridiculous.
Now, before you go to that dry matter, because I believe is a topic that we'll cover, yeah?
Yes.
Before these hydroponics, what were you really feeding the cows?
I went through everything. So I remember when my cows came, I had a small stand of Napier grass. In my geniusness at that time, I thought that was enough. So then I had one of my guys in the greenhouse had worked on another farm where he had taken care of cows. In fact, he's the one who encouraged me and said, yeah, well, leta ngombe, najua kukamua ngombe, najua kukatia ngombe majani, and this and that. So on a very rudimentary level, we were okay to start. And because remember, my main aim was manure. So it was the cow is fed, it's pooped, we take the manure and we can put in the greenhouse. Without realizing the amount of manure I needed in the greenhouse was never going to come from 4 cows, even 20. I had a lot of manure, and this truckloads literally. So I literally took a hammer to kill a fly. My problem was manure, and I thought having the cows sorts that out, then my greenhouse is sorted. Whereas I would have just stuck there and said, you know what, funga mshipi, enda Narok, nunua manure, kuja, you focus on that. But then again, it got me on a journey that's given me a lot of satisfaction. The cows were challenging, yes, but they were very, very satisfying.
Now, after these lab results, you have a turnaround. Now you are no longer doing the hydroponics, you have done a lot of research, I'm sure you consulted widely. Yeah. Then what did you do next?
Okay, so what I did, I went back to KISS. What I say KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Okay, so I went back to the basics. Now I understand dry matter. So I'm looking for a fodder source where I can feed my cows till they meet their dry matter intake requirements. That was initial. So I had not figured out all this, the nutrients in dry matter, blah, 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 all those. It was ngombe ikule ishibe. So I started to expand my Napier field. Because what was happening is I was doing open field. I had the greenhouse. Then there was a block of land which was idle. So I was doing open field farming on it, which I'd even put an irrigation system and everything. Even that one backfired. Again, organic matter in the soils and those other nutritional issues. So I decided to convert some of those blocks into Napier stands. So I'd go and just start planting. You get all these newfangled ideas, tumbukiza. So I focused initially on Napier grass because what was happening when I had this shortfall of Napier, I'd buy hay. Then again I realized this is a very expensive and very difficult thing to sustain. Buying. And there's a bit of land here. So since these dahlias I'm trying to grow here, just drinking water, and the day when you want to sell, there's no one to buy, and it's a very frustrating business. I done broccoli, cauliflower, blocks and blocks, and I sell it to pig farmers. Why? Because there's no one buying at that time. They start to flower. On a lighter note, you are not tempted to keep cows and pigs so that they can take care of it definitely crossed my mind. I researched a bit. I even had the Farmer's Choice manual for for how to build a pig unit and all those kinds of things. So luckily I was broke then, so I didn't go back to pursue that avenue. But it definitely crossed my mind, and I gave it quite a bit of thought, and I got the Farmer's Choice manual as well. So I started growing my own Napier grass. The cows were, relatively fed, quite okay fed. So then I moved from, now you remember I said 9 liters. Yes. Then I started to grow, my production started to grow. And then I was like, oh, you mean, so if the cows are fed properly, I stopped doing that Koroga charity sweepstake drum. And now I started just trying to focus. I told myself, if Pembe, for example, is a manufacturer, that's what they do. I really am not going to bother my head about mixing this and this. And one of the big things was trace minerals. How to pima that thing. It's so small. Exact. It's such an exact thing that if you get it wrong, you may poison your own cows. So I realized, fine, you want to do it, but then again, you're just creating problems you don't need. So I stopped doing some of those things, and I started focusing on feeding my cows Zishibe. Then I noticed I moved from, that's now how I started moving from 9, and I went to 14, 18, 22 liters.
Same cows?
Yes, same cows.
I presume when they were 9, doing 9 liters, they were very thin.
They were a sorry sight. There was nothing to behold looking at them. Then again, and you go to Mzee Chalo, for example, you look at his cows and these guys are breeders, so you find the really big Holsteins and stuff. So you're looking at your cacao here that you bought from Limuru or some farmer there at your level, for example. And then you're like, what am I not getting right? But it's good that I went through those things, because how would I have learned stature? Why that Mzee Chalo's cow is that big, or in Joro, down in Joro, why are those cows like this? So I was able to put in things together. Then you also have to realize I was a full-time farmer. There was nothing else I was doing. I was here on the farm, running my greenhouse and my cows, and my 2 plots there of flowering dahlias and cauliflower and broccoli and those things. So there's a resilience that the greenhouse farming put in me. Don't give up. Just push. Tomorrow, let's try tomorrow. Let's try.
You are living in the future.
Yes, all the time. Today is very frustrating. Yesterday could give me ulcers. The issues that were there yesterday. So yesterday today I'm correcting the mistakes of yesterday, and then I'm looking to tomorrow, hopeful that it'll be a brighter day than today, with less mistakes of yesterday or something like that. So
2013 is when now you're able to get 22 liters.
Yes. In that 2-year period now.
Between 2013 and 2015.
Let's just say by 2014, my cows they could take care of themselves on a basic level. Because there's another problem now I created for myself in 2014 that I'll get into. But by 2013, I was like, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel. 17, 16, there liters and stuff like that. So I was relatively okay. Started having love for cows, and just not as manure factory, and not just as milk machines, but as assets, biological assets that have character. These cows there's one called Bessie. Those are very aggressive towards other cows, but very afraid of human beings. Right from when I got her, So you'd see different cows, they are different behavior, get very curious and drawn to them, and then you start making emotional decisions, the things that I now beat farmers about. Those emotional decisions I made because I named these cows.
Was the milk market driving you towards producing more milk?
No.
Was it even promising?
No. What was my milk market? My milk market here was, so there was a shop here at the shopping center that would buy bulk milk and sell per cup and stuff like that, number one. Then there was a dairy here at the shopping center, and Kikuyu Dairy. Those are the three places that take my milk.
So the milk prices were they were not motivating?
No, not at all. And then a few people from the neighborhood would buy milk for their own consumption. So those were good because they said, we want to buy direct from you. We know where that milk is coming from, and we know you're our neighbor. So we don't expect you to give us a bad product that we will feed our children and there'd be any issues, which was also good because it again put a lot of pressure on me. There are those things which you have to figure out, milk hygiene and those kinds of things. So I was able to do them very well. Okay. Now, so 2013, in a span of 4 months of research, intense research, Patrick, I'm telling you, I'd wake up in the morning, go pick my milk from my milk shed. Now this is my own for the house. Pick the milk at maybe 5:30, 5:45. Make sure that the milking has been done. Delivery of milk is gone to that shop, and the milk for those guys who are coming to collect is being put there. I'd come into the house, make my breakfast. I'm online latest 8:30 a.m. And I'd just read and get lost in it. It's so deep in it. I'm reading things I don't understand. So I'd read something I don't understand. So I Google that term. Now that's on another tab. It becomes another life of its own. So I went so deep into it in 4 months' time. And then I really now could see, aha. So this is 2013, mid 2013. I had my aha moment. So I was like, oh, okay. So this thing works this way. So I remember in 2013, still on that Farming Kenya group, I'd start to throw some of these insights, these learnings and understandings. So people were starting to ask me questions, like, okay, so what do you mean here? And I'd explain it properly. And there were a few people, say, from the university and things like that, who also said, wondering, who is this guy who seems to be explaining things as they should? He seems to have really grasped he understands this thing. So I remember in 2013, towards the end of 2013, I called farmers, just from Farming Kenya. Hey guys, let's meet and there's this thing about dry matter and whatever that I'd like us to talk about, something I've understood. So they came here to the farm and we just talked about the basics of nutrition. And for that, it was just dry matter. Because then dry matter was dry feed. Ile patia ng'ombe hay ikunywe maji mingi. Hay na chumvi ikunywe maji mingi, itoe maziwa mingi. So there was a big misunderstanding about what dry matter is versus dry feed, if I can say that. And how does that impact production and those kinds of things. So they came here and we had a talk, and I think there were like 20-something farmers. If you're a trainer, when you stand in front of people and you talk, you can see who's understanding what you're saying. Of those 20+ farmers, only about 6 guys left there understanding anything I talked about in the 2.5 hours. And Patrick, here I had a screen. I got that the big screen, and I was showing tables from my laptop and stuff. People are looking at the screen and things are just they were not understanding at all. But these about 4 to 6 guys really got it. One of them was Naftali Arapsawi.
A very good friend to me.
Yes. And now you see what he's been able to do and where he's gone as a dairy farmer over those years. I really hope that part of that day when he came, there was a spark lit in him that the fire burns through to today. And I hope that's hopefully his success as a dairy farmer is from that basis. So after doing that, So move into 2014. So that's now how we got into terms with Patrick Ruto. So he was selling cows and stuff. So he realized he's selling cows to some people, and they start making mistakes. So it's going to blow back on him, because hiyo ng'ombe uliniuzia ni mbaya, whereas in the farmer doesn't understand what he should be doing to make that cow, to get out the full potential from the cow. So then I decided teaching farmers. He'd be like, I'm selling these cows to this guy, but I want you to speak to him first so he understands how to take care of that cow and feed it and this and this. So just from there, I started going around to farmers and explaining and helping farmers to set up properly. Dimensions. You'd go to certain farms and you see like a cubicle. It's been built so small. And this guy's bought such a huge cow, it's not going to fit in there, and he doesn't understand. So how to correct those things? The troughs, they're all wrong, and those kinds of things. So 2014 now started for me that journey of sharing the knowledge and this experience. Remember, I'm a full-time farmer, so I can do so many experiments on my cow. My mentor, Mrs. Gishinga, said it. Willie, ng'ombe zako ni kama zile panya za laboratory. You try. Stop. You need to stop somewhere. I told her, no. I mean, you need to learn what works, and you learn practically. Yes, expensive mistakes, maybe, but you know now what not to do. And the mistakes you've learned, umeshika masikio hivi. Si ya kuambiwa, wewe mwenyewe umeona. So you know that path, leave it alone. Go back to this other path where you are trying to cut costs and those shortcuts farmers have, and those miracle things they look for. So I learned a lot, and I was also blessed enough to be able to share these things with these people, these other farmers, and move them away from making those expensive mistakes right from the beginning.